Thank you for joining FCSUA's December informational webinar, Using the Family Toolkit, Family2Family Toolkit. My name is Iris Neal. I am the Program Planner and Outreach Coordinator at the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. If you are having difficulty hearing the presentation, phone numbers that can be used to call and join the audio via phone will be posted in the chat window. Please use the chat window to post your questions as well. Our speakers today are Dr. Joey McKinley and Dr. Chris Webb. Joey graduated from the University of Florida in May 2024 with her PhD in special education and minor in research and evaluation methodology. In 2019, she earned her MSED from the University of Pennsylvania. And served as a graduate assistant for the University of Penn Law School. In 2017, she graduated from the University of North Florida with a BA in education and exceptional education. Throughout the past 10 years, Joey has been actively involved with organizations and programs that centered on advocating for and providing services to students with intellectual disabilities. Joey's research interests include comprehensive post-secondary transition programs, specifically self-determination and program outcomes. Dr. Christine Weiss-Webb is a distinguished professor emerita and teacher who now advocates and consults for students and adults with disabilities. Chris began her career as a classroom teacher in Colorado and New Mexico, and primarily taught adolescents for 17 years. Chris began pursuing advanced degrees in special education at the University of New Mexico. She began teaching college in Florida at the University of Florida, where she served as the director of the Florida Network. This was a federally and state-funded organization dedicated to helping adolescents and young adults with disabilities pursue successful paths to education and employment. Chris moved to the University of North Florida in 1998, where she served as a professor, director of the Student Accessibility Office, and collaborator with community organizations to assist students with intellectual disabilities as they enrolled in a college experience program on campus. She has authored or co-authored 6 books, as well as numerous journal articles, monographs, workshops, and presentations about transition to post-secondary education and employment among students with disabilities. She is currently working with the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities at UCF on projects to help students with disabilities succeed in life. Joey and Chris, I am turning the webinar over to you now.
Thank you, Iris. I appreciate the introductions. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. We thought first, in case you're following along on your own computer or for future reference, where you can find this toolkit, and then we're going to dive into what it is and also go through each of the sections. So currently it is on the main homepage. It might not be there always, but as we're featuring it right now, it is. So you can access it on the main homepage right there in the middle. And then you just go click the Family2Family Toolkit and it would take you there. But also up at the top where it says Planning for College, it will always be listed there. So that's kind of the go-to place to search for it. So if you were to click that, it would take you to the exact same page here. So just a kind of brief introduction to the toolkit that Chris and I worked on. So essentially our idea was to provide tools and resources that relate to the needs of not only students, but also their families, especially as they're looking into post-secondary education opportunities. And then while they're in these post-secondary programs. So again, we just kind of wanted to provide more information, and we got a lot of these from families and what they were actually needing. So as we go through, you'll see a lot of family input and also some answers to some questions that other families might have. So we really utilized what we felt and what the families told us they needed, and we put that into this toolkit. We're going to go through it again, each section, but just like a brief overview, there are 5 sections, and each section has resources in it. It has video content, it has external links, it has a bunch of just information, frequently asked questions. So as we go through the first section, it actually kind of dives into the different components of the toolkit. And so with that, I think we'll go over to the first section and Chris will begin.
In the discovery session, we're going to be talking to you a lot today about family features. That's how we've broken down this presentation today, as we want to highlight some of the features, and we're calling them family features. Kind of a play off the Family2Family title that we've given this. And in the discovery section, you're going to see some samples of films. And we did these films with actual families here in the state who had sent their sons or daughters or family members to a post-secondary program. So the first ones we have are Camille and Andy Gardner, whom some of you may know, initiated this whole effort in the state of Florida and initiated the legislation that sponsors all of our work here that we're doing. So we featured them as our first family. Their son has been extremely successful, and they talk very candidly, as do all of our family members, about the experiences they had as a parent. So you'll see films all the way through called Family2Family films. You will also see something called fizzes, and I'm going to let Joey talk about what a fizz is.
Yeah, so these are really fun, and we were excited about these. You'll see this graphic of FIZ. It's a Family Information Zip Zone. That's what it stands for. And as we go throughout the toolkit today, you'll see this graphic of the soda can popping with the fizz, and that just shows that it's an additional resource. So, for example, if we're talking about choosing a location for college and how important that is, we'll give information on it, but then maybe you want to dig a little bit deeper and read some more resources on that topic. You'll see the little fizz icon, and then you click that and it'll take you to another video or a PDF or a journal article or something that supports that topic. But it's something we wanted to signify throughout so that you would know when you see fizz that it's just essentially additional information related to that topic.
And then the last thing in the discovery section that we wanted to just highlight were checklists. We are such believers in the checklist system for both the students that are interested in post-secondary education and their family members. And we found that you'll see some parts later on in our presentation where we have a student do a checklist and we have his family do the same checklist through their perspectives. And I think that those are wonderful ways to collect data from the student and from the family and give them some discussion points, give them some talking points that they can use and utilize in their planning. So we will highlight some checklists for you throughout this and show you how you can use them. They can be printed out and used. The student can use them to share with his vocational rehabilitation counselor, with his school personnel, with college personnel, program folks. They're just really valuable pieces of data that student can collect and gather. So we're really excited about that component of this. So in short, those are the 3 essential parts that you're going to be seeing throughout this book. They're uniform throughout this publication. Our next section is the learning section. And we felt strongly about doing this section because we wanted folks to go into this armed with lots of information about post-secondary education programs. So if Alex can go to the 5th drop down and open that up. This is an example of some of the kinds of information you can find. Here's what we would like you to do. we'd like you to read this part, and then in the chat, which Joey and I will be monitoring, we would like you to write a nugget of information that you learned from reading this. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to do that. Read it and write a nugget in the chat. Something you may not have known before, or something you want to remind yourself about. What are critical parts? About another 20 seconds. Great.
Some of them are that they didn't realize the criteria beforehand. Uh, again, the criteria, so that was big. Loving that these programs award scholarships to students. I mean, that's such an amazing part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Creating the center, yes, we are very grateful for them and their ability to support these colleges.
Absolutely. And it's quite unique. It's very unique in our country.
Mhm. Simply the fact that they must have an intellectual disability.
Mm-hmm. The accountability, yes. Hi, Terry. Okay. Yeah. That's perfect. Those are perfect things to go. So those are the kinds of nuggets that you're going to find right all the way through in the learning section too. So we wanted to just point that out. It's just an informational part that you can share with families. Again, this is something you can refer to families to as you're out recruiting in high schools or in agencies, or you're talking with parents or talking to parent groups too. Tell them about this website. It's a really, I think, a comprehensive way to get kids ready to go to a post-secondary program, and having their families equipped with this information is also really key to the whole part of it. And if you read the research about families and college, all college students, not just college students with disabilities, the more their families are prepared and informed, the higher the likelihood it is that their kids will achieve success in college. So that's for all kids. So we know that's true for our students here too. So those are the things to just think about in the learning section. And now we'll go to A, under the helping the family understand. And you'll see here there's some different parts of helpful definitions, campus inclusion, and college experience. We found that people, and we certainly, when we started digging into this and writing, all the different kinds of exit documents you can get, credentials, certifications, badges, all the different things you can get as part of a post-secondary program. And so we found that going through the different kinds of programs, there's degrees, there's bachelor's degrees, there's associate degrees, there are types of majors. Knowing what a major is key, as well as credentials. How do you prove your credentials? There are micro credentials, badges, certificates. All of these are important to certain industries, and we want our students to go in and have verifiable credentials when they go into a place of business and go in with confidence because they have the backing that they need to successfully complete a degree too. So what we'd like you to do with all of this, what do you think families are the least informed about with all of these things? What do you think they need as you look at this list of all the degrees and majors? What do you think families are least informed about? And we can either talk about it or in a discussion, or you can use them in the chat again. So I'll give you another 30 seconds. What do you think families need most information about in this whole area of definitions? What would be most helpful to families?
Right off the bat, we have in the chat, understanding the difference between a major, a degree, a credential, and what that looks like. And I remember even when we were first doing this, Chris, I was educated myself on the difference between all of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Preparing for employment.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yes. AT and accommodations, yes, and what will be needed to get these degrees or certifications or whatever they choose to get.
Mhm.
Well, those are all good things to do. Oh, that's good. For the if then. If they get this credential, then what will happen? That's perfect. Because we want to know what this certification or what this credential will allow that person to do then in the employment life. And I think that's where college advisors help. That's where program people can help too. And the knowing the employment pathways, that's really good too. The differences between credentials and certifications and why they will qualify for one and not something else. Those are excellent. You'll see also in this understanding too, there's some other tabs here, campus inclusion. And that one has to do about different levels of campus inclusion. Do the students take their classes with their same age peers on campus, or are they in separated classrooms with their program? All of those kinds of things are in that part of it with the levels of campus inclusion. And then, of course, there's another, there's a family member talking about here, but then program structure too. And then let's look briefly at that third tab if we could. Yeah, the college experience. What does that look like? So we have one of our people, one of our parents who talks about that, just a snippet about her video. Tina Mundeline is going to talk about that.
Elisa's dream was always to go to college. Her sister's dreams were always to go to college. And if your student wants that, my advice is to let them fly. I think they need the support.
So that's what she was saying, let them fly. That was her advice. And she talks about the different experiences they've had, the scares they've had, the hesitancies they've had in that whole thing. So listen to the family-to-family videos. They're really interesting to hear another parent's perspective on these too. So we've listened to Tina, and then if you could click the fizz under Frida's there too. And Joey will talk a little bit about what this is.
Yeah, so it's interesting that I think the biggest takeaway perhaps was the difference in non-degree credentials and certificates. So this is a great example of a fizz. So this is A topic that you saw we covered under definitions and we defined it, but then this Fizz actually dives deeper into it. It's an additional resource and an extension of what we had in the helpful definitions. So this one is actually from Think College, and it dives deeper into the type of non-degree credentials and then how to ensure that these credentials are of quality. So I remember in the chat we talked about, someone said, what do you do with this credential? So you've gotten it, but what's the next step for that student? And so this talks a little bit about the different types and what value they bring. So again, that could be after, post graduation. So this is again pulled from Think College, but it just dives a little bit deeper into what Chris was talking about with credentials and certificates.
Right. I saw just before we flip to this too, somebody said safety of their students, and that is a kind of an umbrella topic throughout many of our parents as they talk about this. Safety is a real issue and a real concern to many of our parents. So that is something to listen to, something to think about, and something to do some planning for as you go through this, or recommend this to parents to work through too. We're going to go next to our considering and identifying. This is by far the longest section, I would say, because it really helps people talk about all the different choices that are important or may be important to a family as they plan for post-secondary education. So look at all the areas here: the location, the admission, the social life, chosen major, what groups are available on campus, campus housing, finances. All of those kinds of things have checklists for them. And under each one of them, we're going to do one right now, but we're going to go to location. And we're going to talk about the location of the college. But before we do that, I'm going to read you a little case study here. So take a few notes about this young man. This young man is kind of patterned after a young man that we knew. He's 17 years old. His name is Jackson. Actually, that's Joey's puppy's name, so we named him Jackson. He is 17 years old. He is a current junior in high school. This kid loves sports and anything around sports. He attends all of his high school games, no matter what they are. He's an avid sports participant in watching games. He watches college and professional games on videos and TV all the time. Loves to watch and comment on professional sport games. He wants to be at a university that offers a sport-related focus or major or classes. So that's important to this kid. He also wants to be in a city with a professional sport team. That's important. He's pretty skilled at using Lyft and also riding the city bus or the community bus. He definitely wants to live in a residence hall and be around new people. He wants to meet new people and make new friends. He also wants to live on a campus that is close to his cousin's house. And his cousins live about 50 miles away from where he currently lives. He loves being in a larger city. He just lives and thrives in a larger city. He loves shopping, and he likes all the activities in a large city too. Now, here's some information about Jackson's family. Jackson family wants Jackson to be close to home. They're okay with Jackson living in a residence hall or dorm. They really feel strongly about him living on a small campus. And they're more comfortable with Jackson staying around home and hanging out with his present friends. So with that in mind, I want you to put on the hat of Jackson now. Go be Jackson, and let's go to the first checklist and This is how you do it. You click on student because you are Jackson right now. Now, look at this checklist. Which of these would be important to Jackson, extremely important, or not important at all? So look at that list and think, let's just in the chat room, or in the chat space, let's just highlight some notes about what we think would be extremely important to Jackson. Go ahead and write what you think would be the big things for Jackson based on the case study we read to you. Yep, campus inclusion. In a large city. Important is, go back to that one. Is it important to him as to his family? Close to home is what his family wants. He wants to be how far from home? About an hour from home. Large city, place to make new friends. Place to make new friends.
I think that's a great question, Tracy. Is it important to him or to his family? Which is a reason why Chris and I have it as the student can take it, but also the family, in hopes that that could spur conversation. So here we are trying to think of what Jackson, like how Jackson might complete this. And then we're gonna, a great point, talk about how the family might complete it. And are those, are there differences there?
So let's go through Jackson's checklist right now and do it together. Campus is in the same city or area where my family lives. Is that particularly important to him? Probably not. No, maybe somewhat important, undecided. Yeah, somewhere there. Campus is about an hour from my family's home. Which one would we say that one? He's pretty adamant about that. He wants to be, yeah.
Extremely, somewhat.
Campus is about a day's drive from my family's home. Doesn't say anything about that, does he? No, we could probably do that. Yeah. Campus is close to some of my relatives or friends. That sounded, he wanted to be close to his cousins, didn't he? Yeah. So or maybe even extremely important. Yep. Campus is where most of my friends are going. That doesn't seem to be a biggie to him, does it? He's not that, he wants to make new friends. So that next one would be, maybe a neutral, or campus will be a place to make new friends. He's into that, isn't he? Campus is in a large city. He definitely wants that. Campus is in a medium or small city or town. Didn't make any mention of that, did he? So we could probably say that is not important. And then campus is a large college or university or technical school. He really doesn't talk about the size of the campus, does he? He doesn't mention that. So that would be interesting to talk to him about too. And then this is a small college. Next one is a medium college. So we know what the important factors to Jackson are. He wants to be in a sports related area. City with a professional sports team, absolutely. And he wants to be by his cousins. He wants to live in the dorm, and he wants to be about an hour away from his parents, and he wants to make new friends. Do you think we captured it? And that will give us a good report on what he wants to do. Let's go see where his parents want to be now. If we can go to the parent checklist. It'll take out a second to switch back and get us to the parent one. You can see how he's going to do it here. Does it go to the parent? There we go. There. So now he's going to do it as a family member role. So look at this list now. It's the same list you saw, only it's directed at Jackson, and his family is going to give their perspective. So if you recall from Jackson's family, they want him to be close to home. they're okay with him living in a residence hall. They want him to live on a small campus, and they're more comfortable with Jackson staying with his present friends. So which ones do you think they would be saying are extremely important? In the chat area, just dash a couple words. Which ones are the most important ones to the family? Close to home. Yep. Same city or areas as the family. Yep. Mm-hmm. Maybe even the campuses where most of my students' friends are going. Yep, Denise just said that. Yep, exactly. So that could be an important thing to the family rather than what Jackson is saying is he wants to meet new friends. So the family is a little bit different there. What size of campus do they want Jackson on? Small. They want him to be on a small. So now we would be able to get printouts of both the family and and Jackson and compare them, and it would really give some good conversation starters to this family to decide where he really needs to be going. And we can do this for other kinds of areas too. In fact, we'd like you to go all now, Alex, to the part that is the students with disabilities, the student services for students with disabilities. If we could go to back to the landing and go to the students with disability. Yeah, there we go. We're not going to go through a checklist here. However, we just wanted to talk about some general things because this is a big thing for students as they make the transition to post-secondary. First of all, finding the office for students with disabilities. It can be called lots of different things. It can be called the Student Access Services, the Disability Resource Center, the Student Support Center, the Office for Students with Disabilities. So find out what I usually do when I go to a college website, and this is what I advise families to do too, is when they're looking at a college, is just in the search engine on that college website, just type in disabilities and see what it takes you to for the office of students who serve students with disabilities. Some campuses, small, more private colleges, it can sometimes be a tough office to find. So that's really important, is to find that office for with disabilities and know what the title of it is called. And then know what the documentation requirements are. That's another big thing too. IEPs from their high school years are helpful tools because they give a history of accommodations, but they're not legal documents after the student graduates. Some colleges and schools will take the IEP and use it as proof of the disability, but a lot will not. So find out what kind of documentation the college that the kid wants to go to will receive and accept. And then unlike high school, where once you walk in the high school and you have a disability, everybody knows on the teaching staff that you have accommodations and you have a disability. You have to go apply and register to be with an office on a college campus. And that's a big thing for kids because they don't realize that they have to make that change, that they have to take the initiative and be a self-advocate and go to the office and register for services to get their accommodations. They're not automatically offered as they are in high school. And they revolve around the kids' needs, and that's how the accommodations are decided. So they really have to be a self-advocate. So this will talk about how to get to that point and how to find that office. So that's one we wanted to highlight, and one you can highlight as you work with families who are moving towards post-secondary education.
And something else I want to just briefly hit on in this section is Alex showed us how to complete the Qualtrics, but then at the end, you'll get a synopsis of your answers, and there's actually a download PDF option. So as soon as you hit submit, you can go ahead and hit download PDF, and it'll download any of the response options you selected, as well as what you typed in the box below. And so then the students, like Chris was saying, can then take them to IEP meetings or have that discussion with their family member. And you can do that for both of them. So it's immediately available for download. So then again, they can print it or they have it on their computers afterwards. And that was really important to us to ensure they had their results at the end of it.
Yes. And again, there's in all of these, there's a student version and a family version, and we felt so strongly about doing that. Alex, if you could take us back to the landing again, just to remind us of all the different areas there. So we're looking at location, transportation and parking, campus, I can't see that one, campus
Environment.
Thank you. Admission requirements vary tremendously from college to college. We just talked about the services for students with disabilities, and then the campus programs for success, the groups and organizations on campus. You know, think about Jackson. He would love to be in a group of kids that played probably intramurals or got together to go to games. There's so many different things he could be looking at too. And then choosing a major, a credential, or a program. Finances is another big one, as well as campus housing. Now, not all programs, post-secondary programs offer campus housing, so that is something to look at too. But there's lots of different things to think about in this area, and this area takes a long time to get through with both kids and families. So we think it's really will give a comprehensive picture of where the kid is heading when he's ready to go to post-secondary education. Okay, that's all that I had for that one.
We can go to the next section, Alex, please. Perfect. So this section is defining roles. And so in this section, we really dive into the difference, maybe perhaps from high school to post-secondary education and what those roles look like. Because this time of transition is not just different for the students, but also for the families. So we dive into first, the tab here is high school versus post-secondary education, and then decision-making options and communication. So first here with the high school and post-secondary education tab, Alex, can you drop down the level of responsibility? So these are just some examples that we have of how responsibility changes from high school to college. And we were hoping that y'all could take a couple seconds to look at this and either can unmute or put in the chat what you think might be the most impactful challenges that students may face as their level of responsibility will change. So what challenges will the students face as their responsibility changes from high school to college? Yes.
Mhm.
And these are for any student. You know, it does not have to be a student that has an intellectual disability. All students experience this huge transition and change.
Mhm. These are great.
Isn't required to make. Yep.
I sure did. Yeah, we all did. Yep.
Increase expectations. Yeah.
Mhm.
Self-advocate. That's huge.
Yeah. Mhm.
More responsibility. Yeah. Not being reliant on teachers or paras. Yeah.
I have to insert a story here, Joey, sorry.
No, please do.
I'll never forget when I was in the disability center at University of North Florida, but I was also teaching. And I had a mom call me. She had a young son that was just beginning college, and she asked me if I could send one of my staff members over daily to wake up her son in the dorm room gently. Gently. She kept underlining that, waking him up gently. And that's where a conversation of this very nature needs to take place, is that responsibility shifts from the parents and the school largely to responsibility to the student. So yeah, a beer, speak up when needed, absolutely. And that's part of being responsible too, isn't it? Yes, so thank you for letting me inject that story. It just hit me when we were talking.
No, that's a perfect example. And I was actually going to follow up with kind of a great example you gave, Chris, is how does this impact the families? So, we talked about the students, but can we throw some ideas in the chat perhaps of how this level of responsibility will impact the families and the change from high school to college?
Good point.
Chris and Joey, I apologize for interrupting, but there was a question that was dropped in the chat referring to the surveys that the students and the parents could fill out. Someone was asking, once those surveys are filled out, does it give you suggestions of schools to provide what the student and the parents are wanting?
Great. So no, and I thanks for pointing that out. I see Claudia just responded, but yeah, that's a great response. It does not provide that, but like she said, you can download the responses, take them with you to visits, or as you're exploring, have that kind of list there to think, oh wait, where is this school located? Because I wanted to be in a city, or things like that. And then the map is great. It gives a lot of information. And Chris, did you want to add anything on that?
No, I think just going to some of the websites for the programs
Mm.
and going to the websites for the colleges, which is what every kid who goes to post-secondary has to do. So I would say that's a really good question. I'm glad it was asked. That's interesting to think about. Terry just had a good comment down there. What did it say?
Parents have difficulty letting the student take responsibility. More often a parent issue, over functioning. Guilty of this myself.
We all are.
Mhm.
We all are.
Yeah.
So this is a big one, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. So then I also wanted to go ahead and drop down on the faculty interactions. Yeah, perfect. And all of these are laid out the same with the high school versus the college. There also does happen to be a family-to-family video here, so that's great. But I was just going to ask a question for faculty interactions. Do any of these factors, are any of them surprising to you? Or do you think some might be surprising to students or to their families when reading through these faculty interaction points? So anything that you think might be surprising to the students or to the families to learn?
I know one thing that was surprising to me coming into higher ed, that a lot of the professors in their areas had never had any teaching experience. They were biology gurus, but they had never had any teaching experience. That was a shock to me when I came into higher ed, coming from a teaching background. I was very surprised at that. And that's something we have to keep in mind as our students are interacting with professors, is they've not been trained teachers.
Professors not having yet prior teaching experience, exactly. Having to make an appointment. Even just the overall way that the class is formatted, if they're in a lecture hall with 200 students and themselves, the professor is not walking around individually helping them, one-on-one. And I think that's a huge difference from high school to college as well.
Knowing universal design of learning and have an open communication. Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Professors not noticing who needs help. Yep.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
having experience with disabilities. Oh,
That's
yes.
a big one.
Big one.
Yeah,
Big
great
one.
point.
Mhm. Sometimes something as simple as their name too. That's a crazy one, but we put it in high school, you address them as Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith. In college, and there are some college professors who are extremely sensitive about not being called Mr. Smith when their name is Dr. Smith, and they take great offense to that. So that's something that kids need to understand, and parents need to understand too. It's a different kind of, even though it's kind of a silly one, it's real on a college campus sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah, these are great. Thank you, Alex. We're gonna scroll up to the next section, and for the sake of time, we're not gonna go through the fizz, but for this is some decision-making options. And the fizzes that are offered in here, we feel are really strong. They really deep dive into guardianship, and how that impacts their autonomy. And this is just such a big nut to crack, but we provided a lot of resources and fizzes that we feel really help to define guardianship and how that's different, transitioning from high school to college. So if we can go to the decision-making checklist, and that it should be, yep, perfect. And we're not going to go through this. We just want to show that this is a really great point to start at. So students perfect. And then Chris, did you want to mention anything on this checklist? I need
I
to
think,
work on this.
yeah, I think just it just has the student look at and assess where he is on making choices, his level of self-advocacy, knowing what a day looks like, choosing people to help support them. So all of those things are included on that. And I think that it's these, I can see if I was a classroom teacher in a high school, I would use some of these things to create lessons on in self-advocacy. They would really be helpful.
Perfect. And then if you can go back, Alex, to the guardianship section, Chris has some information she's going to share on that.
Yeah, this just shows the guardianship opportunities. There are so many. If you'll scroll down, you can see all the different kinds of management and power of attorney, trusts. There are so many levels of guardianship. And then, of course, FERPA and HIPAA are key to college because as a college professor, I could not talk to any of the parents of my students unless we had some sort of, unless the student was there and gave me permission to do it, or I had some other sort of thing. So that guardianship and that management really, to delve into that is really huge as students head to college. And there's a lot of different fizzes here that will be helpful to families and students as they make these decisions on guardianship. So yes. And then the last one,
Yep.
yeah, communicating. So if you could look at the if-then chart, and that's communicating with your student.
Yep. And it's the checklist. Perfect.
Yep. We thought this one was an example, and you can create these. A family can create this kind of chart with their student. This is just a sample, but like if you have trouble finding places on campus, you don't call your mom. You call people in the post-secondary education program, your mentor. If you see a police person across campus, ask that person. But you don't have to text your mom to see where if you're lost. But if you have questions about money, that's a time where you want to go to your family and do a text or call. If you're sick, if you ate too much pizza and your stomach hurts, you can just maybe talk to your mentor or maybe mention it to somebody in your program. But if you're really, really sick, yeah, a call to, or text to your family is important too. So all of these try to use some of the resources that kids have available to them on a campus, including advisement centers, counseling centers, all those different kinds of things. So you can create these with students using this if-then chart. I know somebody mentioned an if-then chart earlier. They're such great tools on so many levels. And this is how we chose to use it for this too. So that is an example of something where you can create your own too. So now we're running out of time, unfortunately. We want to give you some time for questions and for reflections. So we're going to do this. We're going to do a concluding prompt, and we'd like you to use the chat or to just say it. That's fine too. Finish this sentence. Today I learned. Just give us some examples of some nuggets that maybe you learned or were reminded of today. What were some of the things, either in chat or say them out loud? What the actual toolkit looks like. Good.
I don't know if I can comment, but since I helped work on this, I learned a lot about the high school to post-secondary transition. There's so much information there that I thought was extremely useful. Like that section alone, when I was putting it together, I learned just everything there it seemed really, really useful. So
We learned
that was my favorite section.
Well, we learned putting it together too, didn't we, Joey? There was a lot
yeah.
we didn't know as we were putting it together too. That it exists and considered decision-making process. Great. Yep. Let's go on to the next one. Here's your next one. I noticed. What did you notice, Joey?
Well, just going through, I actually noticed things that I forgot, honestly, because you do the research, you read, you hear, you have conversations, but going back through it, I just noticed all of the resources that were there, and the fizzes I think were huge. So that was something that I noticed about the toolkit.
Yep. I noticed how people quickly responded in the chat too. Boy, that was helpful.
Very
What did
helpful.
you noticed about today? I noticed how quick Alex was too. Wow. And Drexler, thanks for helping with our chat too. Good. And then, of course, the last one is I wondered. What do you still wonder about in this whole area? What questions do you have? And this is a time for you to ask questions that we can do. Oh, that's good. I notice how the team continues to support us as educators and, of course, families. Great. Yes, the center people are fabulous. There's no doubt about that. What questions do you have? Are there any videos that interview teachers or professors? Ooh, no. That's a great idea. I wonder how much support is available for my student on a daily basis. Let's hang on to that one. If Drexler has the ability to go back and forth, can we go back to that one and look at it a second here? There was one question just a second ago. Drexler, do you remember? It was a question that
There's a couple questions. Can students attend multiple programs?
Say that one more time.
Can students attend multiple programs?
At the same time or one after another? I'm not sure I've heard of them attending programs at the same time.
I think that's a
One after
question.
another. Yes, they
Yeah,
can.
that's the question that Christian and Cheryl and I could probably respond to, and Claudia.
Yeah, we don't usually encourage program going from one program to another. The idea is that they find one that aligns with their strengths and interests, and they complete that and then gain employment. So we do
Right.
not encourage moving from one to the other.
Yeah.
And remember that the goal of the programs are to gain independence and to gain a credential for meaningful employment. So if they finish and complete the program, then they've gotten a meaningful credential that can assist them with going into employment. And that's when their scholarship would end, is after they get that credential.
Good. I hope that answered question. What other questions, Drexler, do we have in the chat box?
Question, is it accessible with different assistive technologies? And I believe it is referring to the toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We built it with that in mind.
Okay.
If you should find something, please send us an email. And we
Mhm.
can always take a look and make sure that everything is accessible, but it was built to be accessible, so.
Good question. Good question. Other
And
questions?
Colleen asked about what were the successes and hurdles that students had to navigate. Colleen, we do have student graduate reports that the students have to do for 5 years after they finish the program, and this data is collected with the center. They do ask specific questions. Christian and Cheryl, can you go over some of the questions that are in the graduate surveys that we collect data on?
Yeah, one of the things we look at is, where they're working, the average wage, the average hours, career clusters. All of that is also in our annual report. So it kind of aligns with some of the data that you find in our annual report. Where they're living, that's another one we want to know. Did they gain independence in their living situation? So those are a few of the questions that we ask.
Any other questions that are there that we can answer today?
I'm reading this one in case it was missed. I wonder how much support is available for my student on a daily basis.
Iris, we can all kind of chime in on that one, can't we?
It really depends on the student and the program that they're going into. If that is a question that when you go visit a program, you want to make sure you ask that question. Remember that the student should have some level of independence to be able to navigate the campus and to feel comfortable on campus. So if they're not comfortable on campus, then maybe that's not the exact place that they should be. Maybe it should be a smaller program on a smaller campus. For instance, like at a CTE program or in a state college rather than at a large university.
Yeah, Claudia just put all the approved FPCTPs are on the same website that you can find this tool on too. So there it is. Find a program, and you can locate too.
One of the other things that we did add on that Find the Program page, there are the guiding questions. Can you scroll up to that section? And the downloadable guides, program guides there. There are 2 pages to this document. One is just some questions to ask, and we kind of pulled these from the toolkit. And then the next one, my FPCTP college search. This we created this year because we didn't have it set up for a college showcase, but we don't do the college showcases through the center virtually any longer. But this one, it gives you a place where you can fill in information. It's a downloadable PDF, and you can write into it too. You ask the questions about what are you looking for? And then on the next page of it, if you scroll to the following page, it gives you some specific things that the student can answer. This correlates directly with what Chris and Joey have created in the Family Toolkit. And so you can go back and forth, but as the students are looking through the programs and the video and talking to the different programs, they can use this information to kind of go back and review what they've gotten from the Family2Family Toolkit.
Yeah.
So it is 4 o'clock, and this has been a wealth of information. It's a great toolkit, and I want to thank Dr. Leader Joey and Dr. Webb for walking everyone through this toolkit. And we appreciate everyone taking time from your busy schedule to join us today to learn about the Family2Family Toolkit. And we hope you find it beneficial for your family and your students. Please take a few minutes to give your feedback by completing the evaluation. The link is in the chat. Diana is putting the link in the chat. The recording will be available on our website next week. We do have to get it closed captioned. We will not have a webinar in January. Our next webinar will be February 4th. And may each of you have a lovely time with your family and friends during the holiday season. And we'll see you in 2025. Thank you for joining us today.